Maine wants to be Colorado so bad. That state follows this state's lead in taking Donald Trump off the ballot. The decision today may impact the lawsuit here. A longtime nonprofit is collapsing, taking a county's Meals on Wheels program with it. Financial decisions made this no surprise, even though seniors weren't given a heads up. Who wins and who loses now that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is switching districts, hoping for an easier election on the other side of the state?
It is rock rib, red, MAGA Republican.
And Denver's mayor talks about next year's plan to fight homelessness, now that all the hotels are full. Tonight on Next. You knew that Colorado kicking Donald Trump off the ballot could lead to other states doing the same. You knew because we talked about it here. And today, Maine followed suit. The Democratic Secretary of State in Maine decided about an hour ago that Trump is ineligible because she says he's an insurrectionist. She cites the same constitutional clause at the heart of the Colorado case, the one that's on its way to the Supreme Court. Shenna Bellows is the first Secretary of State to take that action without being forced into it by a lawsuit, like what happened with Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State, Jena Griswold. Maine laws give Bellows more leeway to rule on candidate challenges without having to go to court. In her decision, she wrote, quote, "I am mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a presidential candidate of ballot access based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I am also mindful, however, that no presidential candidate has ever before engaged in insurrection." Bellows' decision is delayed, like Colorado's, pending an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Trump's team has 5 days to do it. A quick Supreme Court decision is also the goal of the liberal group that helped to get Trump off the ballot in Colorado. CREW is the Washington, D.C. organization that backed up 6 Republican and unaffiliated voters from Colorado who came together to sue Trump off the ballot. They landed a partial victory at the state level. Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump should be off the state's primary ballots, but delayed that decision for a likely appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now that the Colorado Republican Party has filed that appeal, the progressive group, CREW, is asking the Supreme Court to hear arguments and decide it in under 6 weeks. Mail-in ballots for Colorado's presidential primary hit the mail February 12th. CREW is asking the Supreme Court justices to decide on Trump's eligibility by February 11 so that voters here would at least know if Trump, whose name is almost certainly going to be printed on the ballot, is disqualified or not. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's decision last night to flee a tough re-election race for a friendlier Republican district where all she'd have to win is a GOP primary, that may keep her political career alive. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger looks at the challenge for Colorado's best known and most endangered elected Republican.
It's the congressional district with a true divide: urban Douglas County and rural Eastern Plains, the urban-rural divide. This is Congressional District 4. It covers Highlands Ranch, Parker, Castle Rock, Loveland, Windsor, and the Eastern Plains. And it's the district Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert now wants to represent, which is significantly more Republican than Congressional District 3 on the western slope in southern Colorado.
I just feel like there was a larger middle in the third. Where in the fourth, there's no middle. It is rock rib, red, MAGA Republican.
David Flaherty with right-leaning Magellan Strategies recently did a survey of likely Republican primary voters in the urban-rural 4th Congressional District.
It's basically, hey, start introducing yourself to voters. And it didn't matter if you were an elected official from Douglas County or from the Eastern Plains. It was really wide open.
Boebert now joins former state lawmaker and current Logan County Commissioner Jerry Sonnenberg, who may appeal to the rural voters who've known him for decades. For State Representative Richard Holtorf, former state lawmaker Ted Harvey, and Trumper Trent Lacey, Boebert's appeal and similar politics may pull voters from them. And for former conservative talk radio host Deborah Flora, it may be a negative because of Boebert's $1.4 million cash on hand from fundraising and her name recognition.
Yes, she's likely to have a lead because of her name ID alone. I would also say because of her politics, it's likely to resonate with many of Republican primary voters.
From a party perspective, we certainly don't think it was the best move.
Colorado Republican Party Chair Dave Williams told CNN today, seeing Boebert want to swap districts is not ideal.
She's got a serious challenge on her hands, trying to explain to the voters of CD4 why she felt it was necessary to leave CD3 and have a better chance at keeping her seat in Congress.
In 2022, almost half of the Republican primary voters were from Douglas County. So whoever wins the primary in June will likely either have to win the Eastern Plains rural voters or the Douglas County voters. They likely are at odds with each other, similar to the Republican Party, apparently.
I mean, one apparent winner would be whoever comes out of that Republican primary now in what is currently Boebert's district, because they walk in without her baggage in a heavily Republican district.
And now maybe we're going to see brand new Republicans join that race because you weren't going to go up against an incumbent like we saw in CD4 once it got vacant. Everybody and their mother starts running for that seat. But what's interesting is Douglas County Republicans, as I say, are probably at odds a little bit with Eastern Plains Republicans, which is kind of like what we heard from Chair Dave Williams versus your typical Republican in Colorado.
Well, if there's anything that she knows, it's political theater, so we'll see how this goes. Marshall, thank you. Here's why Congresswoman Lauren Boebert switching districts may be good news for Colorado Republicans and bad news for the head of the Colorado Republican Party. That hadn't even occurred to me until I heard Party Chair Dave Williams tell CNN that it was not the best move. But Boebert's decision opens up a winnable seat for a less extreme Republican in western and southern Colorado, the kind of Republican that Williams has been trying to purge from the party. Williams is trying to shift the Colorado Republican Party to the far-right fringe, the election-denying, Civil War-threatening, own the libs over getting stuff done fringe. The Lauren Boebert wing of the party. The Colorado Republican Party has openly attacked both of the other Republicans in Colorado's congressional delegation for not being pure enough. And those two men, who are not moderates, they're just like pre-Trump conservatives, they've been effectively sidelined by the Colorado GOP. You got Ken Buck, who's leaving Congress, and Doug Lamborn, who is so rarely heard from, he might as well not be in Congress either. The Colorado Republican Party belongs to Chairman Dave Williams and Lauren Boebert. Her decision to switch districts doesn't change the calculus in her new Eastern Plains district. Whether she wins it or not, it's likely to go to a far-right Republican. But her switch opens up an opportunity in western and southern Colorado for a less extreme Republican to run and win where she might have lost. That Republican would instantly become the face of a less extreme brand of Republican politics in Colorado. Good news for Republicans, bad news for the people currently running the Colorado Republican Party. So lost in the Denver mayor's big goal to house 1,000 people by the end of the year is the fact that he plans to do it next year too, and next year's almost here. The city is moving people from homeless encampments into hotels by the hundreds. Hotels are filling as fast as the city can buy or rent them. Yet Mayor Mike Johnson told our Kelly Rinke today he's not worried about running out of space.
Tucked between a stay-in and Peoria Street in northeast Denver sits a tiny home village. About 50 people living on the streets will ring in the new year with a roof over their head.
We have 2 cleanups this weekend, and so those will be the last of our encampment closures. And those folks will go either to one of our hotel sites or to this new micro-community site.
Mayor Mike Johnston says the city's first micro-community site will open Sunday. These shelters are part of his plan to house 1,000 people as space at hotels fills up.
We'll, in 2024, get back to work on bringing on more units.
611 people are at a House 1000 unit. After 2 encampment cleanups this weekend, the city expects that number to go up to about 800. Right now, Denver has secured just over 1,000 units.
Are you worried that you're starting to run out of space?
No, we started with 2,000 sites we were looking at when this began, and even though we were at 11 or 15 we were working on over the last couple months, we're still always sourcing new sites.
Johnston says 2 more micro-community sites will open in January or February. He plans to house 1,000 more people next year, so they'll need to secure more sites.
So you're still confident you can identify sites in every district?
We are still working to find sites in every district, and we think we can get there in some capacity.
Most districts don't have a site right now. This tiny home village will be the 3rd to open in District 8.
So Mayor Mike Johnston says council members are helping him look for sites in their neighborhoods. The city says it's a lot easier to open an existing building like hotels in these tiny home villages that just require a lot of hookups.
So Hotel is the first step, right? That kind of hopefully stabilizes people's lives, gives them the opportunity to work on whatever issues might be going on that help to put them into homelessness. How long till they take the next step in the next form of housing?
Yeah, so hotels, that's kind of the temporary solution. It's not the long-term goal. The city is hoping around 90 days, but they are expecting it to possibly take longer, maybe 6 months.
All right, Kelly Rinke, thank you.
We want to stay open. We want to continue providing services.
Adams County's Meals on Wheels program is asking for a bailout to stay afloat. A closer look shows financial problems of their own making. And legal services in Colorado feeling the pressure of a national immigration backlog. Next. There's a scramble to prop up or replace Adams County's Meals on Wheels program after the collapse of the longtime nonprofit that ran it. The abrupt suspension of meal deliveries came as a surprise to seniors, but it wasn't a surprise to Senior Hub, which was using one-time federal stimulus dollars to run Meals on Wheels without a future source of funding.
In hindsight, everything's 2020.
Senior Hub Executive Director Franklin Ramirez is new to the nonprofit this year. He admits Senior Hub built a financial house of cards that was bound to collapse and take Adams County's Meals on Wheels program with it.
We want to stay open. We want to continue providing services.
That's now in doubt. Here's why. Senior Hub began giving meals to any senior who asked during the pandemic, meaning that seniors who could afford to pay didn't, and they haven't paid since. The nonprofit switched from a lower-cost food supplier, Volunteers of America, to a higher-cost food supplier, Golden Corral. And the nonprofit decided to fund Meals on Wheels with federal stimulus money that it knew was running out. Seniors who had no idea the meal program was hanging by a thread were suddenly told they were getting their last meals.
And so everything runs very quickly, especially at the Senior Hub and at nonprofits. And so we decided to tell our clients at the last minute, but as fast as we could.
Tax records show Senior Hub has operated at a deficit for 7 of the last 10 years. They've closed 5 of their 7 programs and may now close entirely.
We're likely to see this happen with a lot of nonprofits.
Adams County Commissioner Steve Odoricio, a Democrat, says that Senior Hub was a great partner during the pandemic, but that nonprofits that became too dependent on stimulus funds have to find another way to stay afloat.
We are going to do the best we can to help these nonprofits with the transition, but that doesn't necessarily mean that government, whether it's cities, counties, or federal, are going to be able to carry the full load of ensuring sustainability of nonprofits. They're going to have to make some strategic and tactical decisions that may impact how they do operations today. And I think that you're going to see this more and more across the United States.
So Adams County decided today to fund 2 weeks of meals from Volunteers of America to be delivered by the Senior Hub volunteers. There's no long-term plan as of yet. Senior Hub is asking for donations from the public to save Meals on Wheels, but it's not clear if that nonprofit will have anything to do with the Meals on Wheels program or if Senior Hub is even going to exist in the future. Lauren Robbins said this week that a lot of people have off, and it's turned out to be a warm one for this time of year.
That's right. It's a great few days to get outside, enjoy the sunshine and the abnormally warm weather as we see our highs reach into the 50s over the next few days. Right now, a live look over at Glenwood Springs. You can still see some people enjoying out there. DIA, we're clear, dry, 39 degrees. Light winds coming in from the west at around 5 miles per hour, making it feel closer to 36 degrees. But as we take a look at our HD Doppler radar, we're going to be clear and dry over the next few days. We'll stay clear tonight, mild for our overnight lows, only dropping into the lower to middle 20s. Our seasonal lows for this time of year are closer to 18 degrees, so mild, calm. We will see some clear skies as we go through the rest of the evening as well. Today we saw sunny skies. We made it into the upper 40s, but we're going to climb all the way into the 50s for our Friday and Saturday. And for the final day of 2023, those temperatures will drop just a little bit, but staying within the seasonal realm for this time of year in the lower to middle 40s. If you're making plans for that New Year's Eve countdown, well, it's going to be dry. It's going to be clear. A lot different from what we saw with last year's New Year's storm that ruined a lot of plans. We're not going to expect that to, this year, but it will be pretty chilly with temperatures in the lower to middle 20s around countdown time. For the first day of 2024, we're above average, sunny skies, temperatures in the upper 40s. And then after that, we're going to see those temperatures drop into the seasonal realm through the middle of the week.
Chaos. I would describe it as chaos, and chaos does not help anyone.
Legal service folks in Colorado are feeling the pinch as millions of immigration cases clog up courts across the country. And even with the influx of thousands of migrants, Colorado's population growth is slow to rebound after the pandemic. The thousands of migrants who have traveled to Denver could be waiting on the immigration process for years to come. Researchers say the case processing backlog is at an all-time high, an estimated 3 million immigration court cases pending across the U.S. TRAC, a nonpartisan research center at Syracuse University, says that the national backlog has grown by 1 million cases since this time last year. In Colorado, the backlog of immigration cases went from 21,000 in the 2022 fiscal year to more than 46,000 cases the following year. Violetta Chapin, director of CU's Free Immigration Legal Services Clinic, says this is a long and grueling process, made tougher by the fact that there are not public defenders in the immigration system.
In the immigration system, we continue to refuse as a country to provide free lawyers to immigrants who are navigating a system primarily relying on the argument, well, that's a civil system. And we've had several asylum cases that I've had to cycle through 5, 6, 7 classes of students. They have to have multiple different lawyers over the course of the years because the cases drag on for just that long.
Chapin says another major barrier for the clients in the immigration court system is the cost and then the time involved. People who have requested asylum, a legal process, then have to wait 150 days before they can even apply for a legal work permit. The thousands of migrants who have decided to come to Colorado and stay this year have contributed to the state's population growth. But according to census estimates released earlier this month, Colorado's population growth still lags behind what it was pre-pandemic. Our population grew by more than 36,000 people last year. That's pretty much on par with the national average. It's more than we've seen the past 2 years, but it's below the growth that we saw pre-pandemic. Some of that population growth is from natural causes like a stable birth rate, a dip in the death rate. But census estimates do take into account net migration into and out of Colorado. This year, migration accounted for 20,000 people added to the state's population. For the second year in a row, the majority of migration into Colorado came internationally, as opposed to people moving state to state. We return with your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a moment of pure winter joy. I mean, it looks like a scene out of a movie. Jack Mazzina took this video up in Rocky Mountain National Park. That is gorgeous. If you see something that says Colorado to you, send it our way. Email it to next@9news.com. Kay writes in tonight about what's going on with Adams County Meals on Wheels and says it is indefensible not to inform the seniors who rely on this food that it was in jeopardy. SB says, is there anything that we can do to help them get their meals? I'm not sure, SB. I know that there have been other folks out there saying give money to Senior Hub, but based on my investigation and reporting, I can't confidently say that Senior Hub is going to be 1, involved in Meals on Wheels, or 2, in existence 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now. I'm not going to tell you to give your money to an organization that is teetering on the brink like that. And this, what's Adams County's plan to ensure the seniors don't go hungry? They are working on it. They worked on the short-term plan for the next 2 weeks. We'll stay with them to figure out what the plan is after that. We'll see you next time.